So my brother's running a new campaign, and we just had two really good session zeros, basically. So my brother wants to run a campaign which is like 5e plus Battletech. Now the trouble is that 5e plus Battletech adds up to about 2.5 the complexity of 5e. Now, if you're just starting 5e, you're probably like, that sounds pretty bloody complicated. And if you played 3.5, you're like, oh really? Tell me more. Now, these session zeros are very important because what we have been discovering is that this isn't necessarily the complexity that everyone at the table wants to deal with at Tuesday night after work. Also, like, all of these grown men in a room communicating this effectively was honestly quite impressive. Does not happen often. Like, people were being vulnerable about their limitations and shit. It was great. I felt like we grew as people. And also robots. Now, I want to be clear, for my brother, what he came up with, he did like a lot of work to try and mesh these two systems together. What he came up with, it's for someone. It's it's complete, it's for somebody. But it is not for our table. It's for 3.5 players, I think is what it is. It's going to give like 3.5 players like that same feeling of rolling like plus 35 to hit, plus 30 to hit, plus whatever to hit. Like all in one turn from like min-maxing a 3.5 character. Anyway, so after some discussing, we came to what might feel like a kind of obvious conclusion, but because 5e and the majority of TTRPGs really become more complicated as you go on, as you level up and etc. A level 12 party is so much more complicated. There are so many more things to keep in mind than a level 3 party. What some of these guys were talking about in their previous campaign was after they got past about level 10, right? Things are just becoming a bit much. There's too much rolling going on in combat. There are too many things to keep in mind. And ultimately, while like people like me and my brother who like the complexity were having more fun, a bunch of people around the table were having less and less fun the more complicated it got. Well, we realized it was about 5e level 8 that everyone around the table was having the most amount of fun. That's huge. And of course, like when it comes to the questions of like, I might be having more fun if I was at level 14, but you're not having any fun when we're at level 14. And like, yeah, let's be level 8. That's fine. Now, of course, there are additional problems. Like, you're only level 8 when you're level 8. I mean, are you going to then level up and no longer be level 8 anymore? Are we just going to stay level 8 for like the entire campaign? I mean, we can do that. There can be other means of like rewarding people for things rather than experience. But like the issue was that the level of complexity of around level 8 was where the majority of the table felt best. On a Tuesday evening after work, level 8 is where people wanted to be. And the answer to this was actually pretty simple, because the hanging out on a Tuesday evening with your mates and drinking non-alcoholic beverages was already reward enough. And like, these were guys who were like having t-shirts of their own characters made because they were enjoying their time so much. So what we ultimately ended up, and when I say we, I mean my brother, what my brother ultimately ended up doing was taking all the Battletech stuff and making it more 5e-ish. And also like a bit Diablo 2-ish. So we broke that aspect down. You know, all the mechs now are just like basic stat blocks like you'd have for a wild shape or something like that. And now all of the added complexity is more exciting to everyone around the table than it was daunting. And like, good job, bro. I mean, like, fair call.